It's been years and years, and down the road away. I've cried so many tears, and I can't tell you why. I could have done all the things that I promised myself, but I'm still making plans to put back on the shelf. I gotta be brave enough to make it through the night. Be brave enough to embrace the morning light. To stop the dream.
Welcome to the Music of Kenton. This series celebrates the life and accomplishments of musicians who have strong ties to the Kenton area. And we have one of these individuals with us today, Robin Grandin, who is sitting to my left, and we'll talk to Robin in just a moment. But a brief introduction. Robin was inducted into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame in 2021, and she has more than made her mark. She is much beloved and respected, not only by members of the musical community, but also the community at large. Robin, welcome.
Thanks, Dick. I'm really glad to be here today.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
Now, listen, I know, and we won't cheat and tell people that we had a conversation before this, but I know that you do have very strong ties to the Kenton area. Could we talk a little bit about when you got here, how long you've been here, and any schooling that you had here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was born and raised here in the Kenton area. I lived over in the Lincoln Park area, as well as you, but I went to Ben Franklin. I went to Ben Franklin Junior High School, Kenmore East, so I've been around this area for many, many years.
And then I should ask you, then after high school you did?
After high school, I ended up going to Villa Maria and Damon College, and then out on the road.
Now, can I ask you, let's go back to those earlier years. Mm-hmm. Can you recall a moment or a teacher or really anything from that past that told you that music was the path that you wanted to follow in life? Did you have that one moment?
I had that moment at a very early age, and actually, getting back to me playing instruments, I had my sister's guitar, my sister's old guitars that she gave me, and I learned 3 chords, wrote a song. Next thing I know, in junior high, I sang my own song at the freshman show, and I wrote the theme song, and you know what? The whole class, the whole school actually, sang that theme song yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That was the moment I said, this is really cool. People are singing my songs. I loved it, and that's where it really started, because I was able to play, perform, write, and be in front of an audience. It felt great. That's how I wanted to do it.
So now, once that happened, did you get any additional support from any of the teachers, perhaps? Did any of the teachers recognize that you had a special gift and encourage you to kind of follow up on that gift and build upon it?
Absolutely. I'd have to say that all the teachers, even in elementary school, were very supportive of everything that I love to do so much. I mean, high school teachers, I can mention a few.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Hicks and also Mr. Potts, they really just gave me carte blanche as far as what did I want to do musically. They let me skip school and go into the auditorium.
I won't tell.
And don't tell.
I won't tell.
No detention either. In any case, I just went there and played all day long. Well, not all day, just some of the day. I did go to my classes. And then I have to say, way back in elementary school, Lois Shriver was the orchestra leader for my elementary school. I started writing at the age of 9 years old, and I wrote the Village Polka. I was out on the road, and years later, I was sent a package that had all the orchestra parts that we had written together, sent to me for the Village Polka. And there it was, the orchestra in elementary school was still playing the polka, which was sort of cool. You know?
That's a great legacy.
It was really nice. I still have all those parts, and it's something that I'll always treasure for sure.
All right, so now let's pick it up from there. Now, you mentioned that your first instrument was a guitar that you had acquired from your older sister.
Absolutely,
Or at least,
yeah.
whether she knew it or not, you acquired her.
Yeah.
You know, now, when did you figure that, okay, I'm a good solo performer, maybe I'd like to take my skills and meld them with other people, and in order to do that, let's see, what instrument do I want to play, and I got to get something a little bit better. Talk about your path, because I love music gear. So tell me about your path.
Same here. You know, I ended up getting some better guitars because, you know, the strings were about this far off the neck on my first guitar, and you know, that was a little impossible to play.
It's better than the one that I had for my first guitar. They were about this far off the neck.
Did you get yours from brand names? Oh my God.
Close. I had one classical guitar from brand names, but my first guitar was from Sattler's.
Oh gosh.
$20.
Darn.
$20.
Good deal. Good deal. But as I acquired, you know, better instruments, I realized, yeah, I definitely want to play. And I would hear other instruments in my head, and I actually kept writing songs, and my first actual professional gig was at the old Tralfamadore Cafe down in the basement.
Oh, on Main Street?
On Main Street, yeah, you know, the place that smelled like a sewer. Anyway.
Believe me, I know, because I played there when it was Dirty Dick's Bathhouse.
Oh gosh, was that before the 12?
Just before.
Oh wow.
So we wrecked it before you got there.
Thank you.
Perfect.
But the thing is that so many musicians were playing there at that time, and folk music was very popular. So I did folk music. I wrote songs. I played an entire night, and I was approached by a band called Pepperwood Green. And they said, "We want you to be in the band." And I go, "Okay." And they said, "We're going to do original music." I said, "Oh, okay, that's really great." So I ended up going to rehearsals. We ended up being Pepperwood Green, and we did 90%. Robin, at that point, my name was Green. That was my maiden name.
Okay.
So I did Robin Green Originals, and it was wonderful. I got to hear all the instruments that I had in my head, and the whole genre of music that I would write came to life, and that was it.
Now that's fascinating to me, because back in those days,
Yeah.
And again, my era, we interlap a little bit, okay? Overlap, I should say, you know, proper English being such as it is. Now, it was all about being a cover band. It was like the audiences really wouldn't accept you in mass if you weren't doing songs that they knew. So how were you able to pull off being in a band that was 90% cover and gain some degree of acceptance?
We just pushed. I mean, it wasn't easy, but at that time, though, I do have to say, I think that people were starting to accept original music just a little bit more.
What time period would this be?
77 through 79, 1980.
That's because disco was on and they hated it.
Probably.
So they were looking for another musical outlet, and you provided it.
We did. But
you killed disco.
Thank gosh. No. I love disco. That was fun. That was fun music to dance to. You know, I love it.
Well, I'm not a dancer, so to me it was boring to play guitar too, but that's a whole other topic.
I have to say that people were very accepting at that time. My first gig with that band was at After Dark.
Oh, wow.
After Dark, yeah. And it was a big crowd because we had invited everybody. The guys who were in charge of the band were really great promotional pushers. They were great marketers, and they really ran the gamut as far as trying to get us that following that we needed. We ended up playing the Bona Vista, McVans. We played everywhere.
Wow.
In the city, but. And After Dark numerous times.
All right, so now let me ask you, the other local bands that you played in prior to the big move that we're going to talk about next, well, any of those bands that you'd like to kind of throw some props out to?
Oh, sure. I was, let's see, after that band came Clockworks, and came Songbird, Ice Nine. Ice Nine was with our friend Tom Fenton that also had some music on the Dr. Demento album.
Right.
Let's see, what other bands was I in? The Touch, an 80s band. That was my Pink Hair era, which I loved greatly. And
I would say me too, but I'd be lying.
yeah. Okay. It's all right. In any case, all those bands, they were all different bands. They all had different types of music, and it gave me a really well-rounded picture of my what I really cared about, what my passion was with music. And then, now you want to talk about the big move?
Yeah, I was just getting to that. You're
Okay.
reading my mind. I was going to say, okay, we've got that. Now, the big move.
The big move. 1986, I was asked to go out on the road with a band that were my friends for years and years before this. And they started out as a country band, and then they became a variety band, and they traveled the country. Well, I had to think long and hard, do I really want to leave the Buffalo area? And the answer was, I think I want to try it.
Give it a shot.
I'm going to give it a shot. So I did. And it was the best move I ever made. We played every type of music you can possibly imagine, and it sure gave me a great foundation for all types of music and really opened my eyes as to what was out on the road and the people and the audiences that were out on the road as well. We played casinos, we played big fairs, we played the Dallas, Texas, the fair every single year, the Texas State Fair. And that was a big thing. We played for General Motors, so it was a great experience.
Now, I noticed that you actually had the opportunity to open for some pretty famous people in your career. So why don't you do a little name dropping for us, if you wouldn't mind?
I can. After Rainbow broke up and everybody went their separate ways, I ended up moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and I lived there for almost 16 years. At that point, I went and joined a band that opened for a number of people, but from that point on, I also started the band, the recording act Mustang Sally, with a lot of the big girls. It was an all-girl band, but it was a recording act, and we certainly opened and played with many people. Number one in my book, Mr. George Jones.
Oh, wow.
The legend.
The icon.
The icon. And I'm telling you right now, you stand at the side of the stage and you look at George Jones and you can feel it. He emanates being the legend. And I was fortunate enough to stand alongside him, sing with him. We opened for him for, I'd have to say, a dozen shows, and it was lovely. Mustang Sally played in front of 40,000 people at a pop, large fairs, large venues, open. You want to do some name dropping?
Yeah, go ahead.
Marty Stewart, Ricky Skaggs, Little Texas, Patty Loveless, of course, George Jones.
Lori Morgan, I saw.
Lori Morgan, you betcha. Lori
she
Morgan,
like?
She's the nicest person in the world.
I love her. I love her music.
Oh, she's great. She's really great. I knew her husband, one of her husbands.
Keith Whitley?
No, not Keith. John Randall. He did some music with Alison Krauss, for Alison Krauss, and Brad Paisley as well. So I got the opportunity to meet folks, to meet the musicians behind these folks, to open for these folks, and I don't know, it just gives you a whole new perspective.
You know, I'm surprised though with your immense talent that one of them didn't scarf you up for their band.
Well, it was talked about. Let me tell you the Garth Brooks story.
Oh, here we go. Now we're getting into the good stuff.
Now you're getting into the good stuff. I was playing at the Opryland Hotel. As a matter of fact, it was the very first gig in Nashville after I moved to Nashville, playing at the Opryland Hotel. And I was very new with the band. It was called the Nolf Family Band. I was new with that band. I had just come there a couple weeks earlier. We were playing at the hotel, and this guy comes up and gives me his card, and he goes, "I think you should call these people." And I go, "Well, I just came to Nashville and I'm pretty loyal with the band that I'm with. I think you should call these people." And it was the time when Garth's sister was not going to tour with him anymore. Mm-hmm. And I found out later on, because I didn't call, I found out later on that it was to replace Betsy, his sister. And it just happened that all Garth's band was there as well that night. So I should have called. but I didn't.
Well, you know, we all have our horror stories of lost, no, seriously, of lost opportunities.
It could have been it, though, Dick.
Well, it happened to all of us, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, at one time or another, sometimes circumstances that we created, other times, in my case, it was circumstances beyond my control. So you're lucky that at least you made your own call.
I did.
You know?
I did.
And I didn't have that luxury. All right, so now you're in Nashville doing all kinds of great stuff, meeting all kinds of famous people, but eventually you come back home. Let's talk about that.
Well, I loved Nashville so much. I love the interaction with people. I love the playing the music. I love the creativity. That was my big thing. I could learn from everybody that I went to see. Such great musicians there. And I came home for a visit, and I always stayed in touch with everybody from Rainbow, and they lived on a farm. So I came home, went to visit them, because my parents still lived up here in the town of Tonawanda. And I came home for a visit, and there was their brother Dave, their other brother Dave. 6 months later, I married Dave. That's the way it goes. It's all about Dave.
It's all his fault.
It's actually I can't blame him. It was a great thing that I did come home eventually. I realized that it was an easier move for me to come back home to Buffalo than it was for him to pick up all of his life with all of his family here.
Right.
You know, and besides, my parents were getting a little bit older, and I knew that they would need some help. And I also took the advice of a number of songwriters in Nashville, and they said, you know, you can write from anywhere.
That's true.
You can pitch your songs from anywhere, and that proved to be very true for me.
For me too.
Yeah, and we can write it from anywhere. We can send it as long as we know where we're sending it, and that's the best thing. But creativity doesn't stop.
No, and I think that those of us who are inbred from this area, there is a certain pull, there is a certain feeling that we get being here. I mean, I don't know, I just felt it was a very special place to grow up. Like you, I had a great education. We followed a lot of the same path. Franklin, Ken Maurice, you know, et cetera.
Exactly.
And it was a very welcoming period for the most part. And you that feeling of warmth and comfort never goes away.
It really doesn't. I mean, every time I'd come home, oh, there's home. You know, here's Buffalo. It's home. It was definitely the landing place for me, no matter how many years I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I can't tell you that I didn't miss collaborating with all the musicians that I played with there and meeting new ones. I loved Nashville. If I did not fall in love with my husband, I'm not sure if I would have actually come home on a permanent basis. But I think I would have split my time between the two. But I am finding that the creativity never stops, and the music just doesn't stop. It's always there. If you have that inside of you, the music doesn't matter if you're in Nashville or Buffalo, New York, or Timbuktu, or Thompson, Manitoba, where I went on one tour. That's 8 hours out of the Arctic Circle, by the way.
So it's just like living in Western New York.
Oh, yeah. Only we don't have polar bear watches like they did. But
Can I want to just take one step back real quick before we move on to today.
Sure.
Was there any singular artist? Okay, now you're in your formative years. You're writing your own songs. People are liking them. You're being accepted. That you could point to that was perhaps your biggest musical inspiration?
Sure. I can, without a shadow of a doubt. Well, there's two.
Okay, that's fine.
Joni Mitchell and Ann Wilson from Heart. And I have to tell you, Joni Mitchell's songwriting ability is second to none. Ann Wilson's vocal ability, of course, I always wanted to sing like Ann and play like Nancy, and that's exactly what I do. So
it is what you do.
It is what I do.
It is what you do.
And those are the people that inspired me, and I said, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. And
you did it. You're doing it.
I'm doing it every day of the week.
You're doing it. You're the busiest musician in show business locally, so it seems.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. Now, I want to ask you, okay, you're back in, you've been here for a while now.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a project that is really deep in your heart that you are very, very, very proud of, and we would be remiss not to talk about Music to Remember.
Thank you so much. Well, Music to Remember, first of all, started out as musician medics. Okay, this is just backing a little bit. It's a little bit of history. Musician Medics was a partnered program with the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame in just a little bit. But Music to Remember started out as my mom passed away from Alzheimer's and dementia in 2018. Back when I first came home, we noticed that there was a big change. And she was diagnosed probably in 2011, 2012 with Alzheimer's. The progression of Alzheimer's, many people know, it's a long-term progression for some. My mother's was a long-term progression. And as she progressed in the disease, she had to be put in some facilities that would help her, you know, continue living a really nice life.
To try to maintain each level and have it not progress any further. Yeah.
It got to the point where we couldn't have her at home because it was just way too much. We did not have the skills to take care of her.
It gets to that point.
It does. And so she was in a facility by the name of Park Creek, which has recently closed its doors. But the administrator of Park Creek understood that I was a musician, and I said, what can I do to help? What can I do to make these residents happy? And I was reading a lot about the effects of music and the healing effects of music with Alzheimer's, dementia patients, and assisted living and senior patients as well, residents. And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, how about this? How about if we put together a really amazing show and bring in maybe about 8 or 9 different musicians and groups throughout the facility and have a really important day of music and make everybody happy. That's where it started. Music to Remember started by this really big event where we had in 6 different areas of the facility, we had continuous music for 4 hours. And I was gonna say, that's a lot of music.
But you saw an immediate improvement, perhaps in cognition of some of the people that were watching you?
Absolutely. People who could not even say a sentence knew all the words to the songs, could sing the songs, and I found that with my mom as well. My mom got to the point where she was in the hospital and no longer could speak. On the TV came Que Sera, Sera. She knew every word and sang the whole entire song. I said, that's it. So I began doing more research. Eventually, the Musician Medics became Music to Remember Western New York, and now we have 7 facilities that we bring music to at least 2 to 3 times a month. And there are many Buffalo Music Hall of Famers that go into these facilities, and I have to say, what a difference it makes in Alzheimer's and dementia patients. I play the VA hospital. Here's a story. There was a man at the hospital who came in 2 weeks prior. He could not speak. He could not lift his head up, and nobody could get anything, no response out of him. I started playing, and actually my sister-in-law Jackie was with me, and we started playing. Within 10 minutes, he lifted his head up, sang every word to the song, and he came alive again. That was a miracle. I see miracles every day that I am in these facilities
and
playing.
That's why you are so much beloved in the senior community. You do more for the senior community than many people do.
It's important. It's important not only to the Alzheimer's and dementia patients, but it's important to the families. I can't tell you how many times I've played for some seniors with dementia and skilled nursing facilities where these people can't even lift their heads or they have no responses, and all of a sudden they start clapping. Their loved one or their family member's right behind them in tears because their family member hasn't done that for weeks or months. You know, it's so important.
And you derive, I'm sure, a great sense of just satisfaction that you're in a position where you can give something of your talent back to help other people. And I feel the same way. I don't have any problem I've done several benefits, and I always have a great, no money involved, but I always have a great feeling
Absolutely.
knowing that I'm doing something good.
But you know what the real thing is, Dick? The real thing is we're not the one giving the gift. It's their response and their smile.
Yeah, they give it back to us.
And we get the gift.
We get the gift, yeah.
We get the gift.
You're right.
And that's the most important thing, I think. It's probably one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever made in my life.
And I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Dick. I
really
appreciate
do.
it.
It's and everybody loves you for what you do for that.
I love music and I love playing. I don't care what genre of music it is. I love seeing smiles on people's faces, whether it's in clubs or whether it's in honest to God, a 40-seat auditorium, or whether it's in a room with 4 veterans that are singing and smiling. I don't care. It's music.
Music is music.
Music is music.
So all that being said, that certainly helped your path into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, of which you are a trustee. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. Well, my sister nominated me, put in a nomination packet for me. I think it was back in 2018, maybe 2018. And then my dear friend Richard Sargent, who is also
and mine.
Yep. He said, "Hey, we need a web designer." I happen to be a web designer. I went back to school and got a bachelor's degree in web design and multimedia. So
could I give you a call after the interview? No.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I've already booked a couple of. Anyway, the deal is that he said, "Hey, we need somebody to take over the website." And I said, "Okay, let me come to a meeting." I went to a board meeting. I said, "Yeah, I'll take over the web design, no problem." I redesigned it, started doing more, was on the advisory board, eventually got moved up to the board of trustees. I am now on the executive board. And then before that, I was inducted into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame in 2021. But when I first came there, they said, "I didn't know you were a musician."
Oh, gee.
And
that's what happens when you leave town.
I know. You're right. You're absolutely right. But anyway, it all came together. I absolutely adore the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. So many Buffalo Music Hall of Fame inductees are from the Kenton area, from Kenmore East, Kenmore West. There's a plethora of talent that has come from this area and these high schools. I adore all my friends from this area, and I love being a part of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame because it allows me to be in contact with everybody. Because after all, I'm the communications chair of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame.
And you've always helped me. A real quick footnote, since you mentioned Kenmore East.
Yeah.
As far as the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame is concerned, this may surprise you to know that Dave Constantino, Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Bill Sheehan, Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Bruce Percato, Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
The late Ted Reinhardt, Hall of Fame.
Dave Schmeidler.
Was he
Kenmore
East guy?
Yeah, I think he either graduated the year before me or the same year as I did.
And yours truly.
And yours,
We were all in Kenmore East at the same time, which shows you how fertile that post-Beatle invasion time period was.
Absolutely. The music that came out of our generation, man, how inspirational. And look all these folks that are coming from our high school. They were just amazing musicians, except for me.
You don't belittle yourself. Now, before we
I can't help it.
This is a perfect segue. Before we wrap,
Okay.
Actually, I have 2 more quick things, and we'll save one for that very end.
Let's do it.
But before we get to that part, I just want to ask you. You've had a ton of experience. Yeah. I've had a ton of experience, but I want to hear from you. The music business can be very hard, and right now it's harder than ever. What advice would you give, let's say, a 15-year-old person that comes up to you and says, "I want to be like you. How do I get there?"
Well, the first thing I have to say is everybody's different. Everybody will excel at different things. However, the most important thing to remember about music is not how much money you make, not how much fame you get, not how much notoriety. It's how much passion do you have about music. If you have passion, everything else will fall in place. And music never goes away. There were times in my life that I was by myself in Nashville and I said, what the heck am I doing here? I'm all by myself. Things are not going right. But there is one thing that remains, the music and the passion. It was always there for me. So that's the number one thing. Get back to the roots. Stay with your roots. Love what you do. Because if you don't love what you do, it's not going to matter.
Can we add, and find yourself?
And find
your
yourself.
own muse.
Exactly.
Don't try to be somebody that you might like, but yet borrow from them and
Exactly.
integrate it into your passion, right?
Because when all is said and done, that's already been done. The best you can be
That's right.
The best you can be is number two.
And you'll never be as good as whoever it is you're trying to emulate.
Be as best as you can be by being yourself.
Words to the wise. Now listen, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I am all over the place. You can reach me through the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. You can also reach me at robingrandin.com. You can reach me through musictorememberwny.com. And you can come and see me at any of the places that I play in the Buffalo area.
Robin, thank you so much for such a great interview.
Oh,
I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh.
And talking to you is always a pleasure. We could have made this a 5-part series easily.
And you know, Dick, can I just add this?
Sure.
You know, I take a look and I talk about all these things that I've experienced and I go, who is that girl? You know, was that me? And you say to yourself, wow, that's really interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that I was interesting. But you just say, was that me? Was that the same girl? And you have to say that to yourself. Was that the same guy who went to see Monolith, who went to see, we're getting off the schedule here. You know what I'm saying? But
we're musicians, that's what we do.
I know, we go off on tangents. That's really important for you as a soloist.
Well, and again, every time Spaceballs airs on one of the movie channels, I'm like, how the heck did that happen?
I know.
This song was supposed to go to the Bangles, and Mel Brooks stole it.
I'd go with Mel Brooks any day.
Well, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, but anyway, you look back on your past and you go, wow, all of that made up me, and I'm happy for that, and I'm happy to be able to sit and talk with an old friend and somebody that I have so much in common with, and I'm happy to be back here in the Kenton, Tonawanda, Buffalo area. It's where we belong.
You are a worthy member of the music of Kenton. Thanks again. This has been great.
Thanks, Dick. Thank you.